It's been an interesting past few weeks since last we talked. And first off, I want to say, wow, thank you to everybody that watched my video. People were texting me, asking me questions, and I got 15 subscribers, which is whoa. It's more subscribers than I've gotten all year. So if you all like this kind of content, and if there's questions that I could answer to help you on your business journey and trying to create passive income or monetize your passion, your creative passion, let me know. I know so many things. I have just been literally working on my business and my music for 2 years, and I've learned a lot when it comes to being in the CPG space, when it comes to just starting a business in general, where to find funding for different types of businesses and different segments. So if anybody's interested in any of that, I am all about helping people figure out their business and figure out ways to make money or to do cool events and stuff like that. So if that's something that you're thinking of, or if you have questions, hit me in the comment section, and maybe the next video might be based on a question that you all have. So yeah, I'm just entirely grateful to everyone. Today, I didn't really have a crazy agenda. I just wanted to let you all know a little bit more about where I'm at, right? I've been working on this business for several years, and there's been a lot of moving pieces. There's been a lot of progress in certain areas, and we're getting closer and closer to market. And so the problems are getting bigger and more complex. When I first started, this was supposed to be an ice cream shop in Moorhead, Minnesota, that was selling infused ice cream as well. And so going from that to what the business is supposed to be now, it has been a crazy journey. I initially had that idea of having an ice cream shop, and I was really pursuing that to start off because it would be a brick and mortar space that I could leverage to have events. I thought we'd have a space where people could smoke inside, perform. There are artists everywhere, and to be able to give people an opportunity in a cool space with the ability to consume cannabis safely and deliciously, that was really my goal. Now, since then, Minnesota banned dairy products being infused. That was my first time being made illegal. So the initial barrier to business model was Minnesota banned hemp in dairy products. They also banned it in meat products, which, not my problem, but they banned it in ice cream and other dairy products, which was something that just absolutely floored me. So that was my first time getting banned. And then, as I posted in my last video, the federal hemp ban, which is supposed to take effect next year, was my second time getting banned. So I don't know if anybody else has been banned twice or whatnot, but if that's you, let me know. So it went from that to then becoming, okay, maybe I can use a commercial kitchen, make ice cream out of that, and just sell off of DoorDash or to stores, smaller stores in the area. And I pursued that. In the pursuit of that, I discovered several things that made that an even harder proposition, an even harder business model. One, there are various conflicting laws in different states on who can make dairy products, what you need to have in order to make dairy products. And additionally, there's a lot of safety measures and procedures that go around dairy products, specifically ice cream and frozen products. So as I'm going through and looking at this, I'm seeing Wisconsin has certain limits, thresholds in which, okay, if you can't have this level of production, you're not able to sell direct to businesses. So even in Wisconsin, it was possible for me to have a ice cream shop, but I can't sell to businesses, which is where the real money is at. And then in Minnesota, the laws were different, including the fact that hemp is banned in ice cream. So looking at that and seeing, okay, now I need to have a higher threshold. I need to have large capacity. Am I going to have time to, am I going to be able to build a factory, an ice cream factory, and then start building the business that I have and implementing all of these ideas? So in the pursuit of that, I'm like, okay, maybe I should start building a factory. What do I need to do that? Where am I going to get the money from? And who am I going to hire to be the technical know-how of all of this? So I started going through that process. And while I'm going through that process, I also learned a lot more about how other businesses have a brand that sells the product, but the product is made by another business. And I was very curious about this because I'd never really understood a lot of the CPG space, and CPG means consumer packaged goods. Didn't really understand that a lot of businesses aren't actually making their own products. They are actually using another manufacturer or a factory that makes products for several brands, and you give them all of your info, you give them all of the packaging and whatnot. They'll make it for you to your specifications, and then you do what you had to do with that. So seeing that made me realize, okay, there's a entirely different business model that I wasn't even aware of prior to discovering the space that might be the most beneficial to my business. And so I started exploring that, and I found a website in which you can reach out to a multitude of CPG manufacturers, people who make different types of bottles, products, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're interested in that, let me know. I'd love to speak more on that. But I'm going on there. I'm reaching out to people. I'm sending out projects. And I probably talked to 50, maybe more, ice cream manufacturers about taking on my project. And a lot of people felt there was too much risk involved. And I understand that. It was frustrating to go through because I spent about 2 years looking for a manufacturer and the right partner. But a lot of them were looking for capital up front. Some of them were like, our smallest order is going to be 40,000. And I did not have 40,000, a place to put 40,000 pints of ice cream, let alone that many people who would buy it just off rip. So it took me about 2 years to find the right partner in this space. And so now that I'm in the position of needing to get things set up for them to be able to operate in the hemp space, as well as the logistics of getting my product out of there. But in addition to that, also getting the supplies to them. So making sure they have the infusion, the packaging, making sure the packaging is fully designed and compliant in the states that I am currently trying to pursue. This has been, honestly, what I've spent a large portion of 2025 on, has been figuring out the logistics, looking at 3PLs, third-party logistics companies. What can they do for me? Do they ship ice cream? Would they be interested in shipping infused ice cream? And do they see that as a risk? So I've learned a lot about cold chain, storage, shipping, all of that, logistics. And, if anybody needs any insight on that, let me know. But the amount of knowledge that I've gained through this process has also made me realize that I could probably start other businesses way easier than what I'm working on right now, which kind of put me in an interesting position because it made me realize that I've been doing things on hard mode. Being in the hemp space, you don't have access to capital. You either have to put your own money up or find somebody else to put their money up. Being in dairy comes with a lot more strict regulations. Frozen foods, just dealing in that space, that's a lot of risk that's involved in getting something from point A to point B to point C to point F. And not everybody ships frozen products. Not everybody who ships frozen products ships ice cream. Not everybody who ships frozen ice cream ships hemp-infused products. And so I've become kind of in this space of, I've kind of found myself in this space of being a one of one. And I appreciate being in this position. At the same time, it also means that the roads that I have to travel on, the journey that I have to take, hasn't really been paved by anyone else. And this has been tough. I've seen some people go from concept to launch in the time that I've been working on solving certain problems that have come up just in the preparation of launching this business at scale. And it's an interesting space to be in because where this is at now, this has become so big to the point that the launch has to be big, right? I'm not going to just launch with 100 pints of ice cream. We're going to have to launch at minimum with 4,000 pints of ice cream. I need to make sure I have a place to store that. I need to make sure I have the ability to ship all of these things to where they need to go. And it's a lot harder to do that. And it's a lot more expensive to do that than ramen, for instance, or gummies and things of that nature, where you can pack a lot in a small space. And it's been like I said, it's been an interesting journey, and I've solved a lot of problems and constraints that I knew I was going to have and things that I didn't know that I was going to have. So in regards to that, I kind of have three current struggles and constraints in my business right now that I'm working through that are also slightly cyclical. And what that means to me is I have three problems that need to be solved, but each of these three problems, solving one would help the other, but not having one solved will keep the other from being solved. So this is an interesting space to be in, and I just wanted to talk about that for a couple of minutes in terms of where I'm at in this business. So the first thing is distribution. Am I going B2B, business to business, or D2C, direct to consumer? So this has been something that I've been incubating on for a while. And while I've been doing that, I've also been developing both aspects. So going B2B has pros and cons. So the pro being large orders, potentially consistent customers, more likely to be consistent customers. The cons being significantly smaller margins. As I've talked to distributors and large chains, they've asked me to sell them things at prices that I hadn't even considered selling them at because I just thought that that was far too low. And so how do I determine a good deal? How do I make it a deal that's not only so good that they can't refuse, but something that also benefits where I'm trying to go? And I'll give you an example. I have been really trying to get in contact with a specific company for a while. They have dozens of locations, and a lot of these locations already have freezers, which is a bonus to me because a lot of these customers that I'm going to have, I'm likely going to have to supply a freezer. And seeing that, I was really interested in pursuing them as a potential client. And after reaching out to them about 10 different ways, 3-4 different people showing up, flying out, showing up to one of their locations to talk to some of the staff and see what things look like for them, I finally got a response. They asked me to send their pricing. I send out the pricing with my absolute, going from top to bottom, what this looks like if you order this amount, and if you are at distributor level, or if you want to order a larger quantity, how much of a discount you can give. And the next reply that I got was, hey, this is interesting, but these margins aren't going to work for us. Let us know if you can do anything about that. They told me about another company who had tried to do gelato, infused gelato with them, and the price that they got, the price that they were selling it for. So their margins, and I'll give you kind of an example here, their margins on my product would be in excess of 80%, which doesn't leave a lot for me after costs and all of that are taken out. So if the retailer is selling my product at $25 and they're asking me to give it to them at $16-15, I'm okay with that, right? 50% margins, not a bad deal. But when I'm asked to sell a $25 product to them at $9 and my costs are $7, that is it's kind of a problem. It's kind of a problem. And I kind of have been incubating on, is this worth it? I talked to a good friend of mine, and she's working on her own CPG business as well. And we had a conversation about my dilemma. There's two aspects here that we kind of fleshed out that are the most important pieces. One, obviously, is the money. How much is this going to make me in the long run? And then questions such as, what kind of volume can they do? How consistent of a customer are they willing to be? And what is that going to look like long term? If I give them this price, how is that going to affect the pricing that I offer others, or that others will ask for as we grow and as we start reaching out to more people? So there is that one piece. The second piece is the marketing. What am I going to have to do to make that worth it for me? How much reach are they going to give me? How much exposure are they going to give me with being a huge customer, but also not really making me a lot of money? So I've kind of got these two pieces here that are counter to each other in a sense. Not a lot of money, but potentially huge exposure. So I'm considering what to do there, truthfully. because I'm not exactly sure. And if any of you are watching and have been in a situation like this or have advice, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments, or most of you have my number, so feel free to text or call me. This is kind of my first problem. And then looking at B2B and considering, okay, maybe a lot of the clients that I get are going to be asking for bigger margins like this, so can I guarantee them? Can I get a guarantee from them on the amount that they're going to order or how much they're going to be able to move? And how can I structure a deal to make it beneficial to both sides, even if I'm not making as much money? Because at the end of the day, I'm willing to sacrifice a couple of dollars for increased exposure. That's essentially marketing budget. But at the same time, I can't have such low margins to where it's affecting, like, I'm not making any money. Like, I can't lose money on a good product. So there's that. Then on the other side of this, you've got direct to consumer. Direct to consumer frozen food shipping is it's not easy. There are not a lot of companies that I found that will do e-commerce fulfillment for frozen foods. And then in addition to that, are willing to take on hemp infused products. So I found 2 companies so far. They're in different parts of the country, which would help with being able to fulfill in a large part of the US. And I'm also looking at how to navigate that as well, because one of them wants half of the sale price. And I'm like, okay, interesting, but I'd be willing to do that if we could order off of my platform, off of my website, so that way I can retain the data and also be able to communicate with the artists and the people who are interested in my product, not just to consume it, but to be a part of the movement. I brought these concerns to them and didn't hear back. So there's that. The other company that I'm looking at, actually, I may end up going with them, even just as an initial start. The thing that I'm trying to factor in, though, as well, is the cost of shipping. You have to ship frozen on same day, almost same day, next day. And that's a little pricey. On top of having dry ice, that's going to need to be put into that. So the cost of the dry ice, the cost of shipping things, and the expedited shipping costs. How much is too much for the potential consumer? And what am I going to need to do to make sure that I'm getting the size of sale that I need in order for my business to keep running and for shipping costs to be worth it? Should I be looking at people ordering 4 at a time? We're looking at maybe $100 plus shipping. Is it going to be possible for people to order 2 at a time? Should I pursue 8 at a time? So this is where I'm at with that right now, because I have to figure out the margins, the numbers, and how I can make all of that work prior to launching. So going D2C or B2B, that's the first dilemma. The second one is, how do I raise and properly deploy capital? If I were just creating an ice cream business, this would be a lot easier. I could take my plan to the SBDC or a neighborhood development center and likely get funding significantly easier. And if this is something that you're interested in learning more about, let me know in the comments. However, since I'm in hemp-derived products, that cuts off access to federal funding, because federally things are not legal and banking is not insured if you're doing hemp-derived products. So that cuts off a lot of access to most of the things that people would be working on, or most of the places where people would be looking at getting capital. So in addition to that, I've been pursuing investors. Not a space that I expected to be in, but after a year of cold calling, emailing, I developed a pitch deck, which kind of goes through my business, what I'm trying to do, what the business hopes to accomplish, what I'm working on now, what the next steps are. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'd love to show you guys, honestly. Like, not a lot of people have seen my pitch deck, even though it's nice AF, let me tell you. Pursuing that, I have also been considering, what is the size investment that I'm looking for? What is going to be worth it to an investor? And what is going to be enough for me to get this business going and also empower others? So I've been kind of considering what that looks like, and maybe we can talk more about that next time. But let me know, are you guys interested, and what should I talk about next? There's For me, I can talk all day, right? And I know a lot about business. And I think my passion really is helping creative people become entrepreneurs to monetize their passion and have a base that they can use and not have to worry so much about how you're going to make money. You know, how can we create a system to make money and also do the things that we enjoy? And that's the problem that I'm trying to solve here. So, hey, if you even get to watch this video, because I'm just recording, if anybody sees this, would love to know your thoughts. Would love to know, what do you think? What would you like me to talk about next? You know, we haven't even gotten to the music that I'm working on with others, the tour that we're putting together. You know, there's just an immense amount of things, and I'm open to hearing what you all want to know, you know? So I don't often do the content thing, but I also know that for me personally, I want to look back in 20 years and see the progress that I made and see where I was at in this journey. In 2025, this is what I was talking about. And then looking back on that from 2045 and being like, wow, that's where I was at. That's crazy, dude. So that's my goal. I'm done rambling. Thanks for checking out this video. Yeah, I hope to see more people engaged and enjoying this. Even if not, that's cool. If you know somebody who's interested in monetizing their creative passions, let them know. Send them this video or DM me their name or Instagram or something. I'd love to reach out, or I'd love to hear from them. So thanks everybody, and yeah, let's get it. All right, it's time to go. Ooh, I gotta go.